capture all of this. There we go. Welcome back to week 2 of the Health Kickstart program. And Lauren is on day 21. So let's celebrate that.
Yay! I'm on day 2. I'm way behind you.
Yeah. But you'll get there. You'll get there.
Yes, I will.
Got to self-talk, I can do this. I've got this. I'm going to be so proud.
Okay, so I have a question because this is all fresh for you. For each week that you did like the Monday, Tuesday fasting, did it get easier week 2 and week 3 from week 1? Or was it about the same?
Yeah, it did. It did. Week 2 was still a little up and down energy wise on those 2 days. But I just allowed myself to sit on the couch and be a vegetable.
Yeah.
But week 3, actually, they were fine. And actually, I think it was week 2, the second day, I had this sudden spurt of energy and focus. It was amazing. That did not happen on the other 2 weeks, but it was, because I called it my miracle day. It
You
was
did.
like,
I remember you calling it your miracle day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling very like mushy brain this afternoon. And I don't feel bad though. I just feel a little bit like ditzy and out of it. And I definitely do not feel focused.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is very common, right? Because a lot of energy is being taken from your brain to do all of the detox throughout the body, including in the brain. So it's just going to different uses, right?
Yeah.
And tomorrow morning, you're probably going to feel that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I did that, the first morning that's exactly how I felt. And then I had lunch and then I was fine.
Yeah.
And then I was fine for the rest of the week. And then in week 2, I didn't have it at all. And now, like today's my fasting day 2. So I'm on my second shake right now. And I do that once a week, every week. And it doesn't faze me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, as we do this, we build our metabolic flexibility. And metabolic flexibility is where we get our health from. So we want to be building it. And so when we get to week 4 and we talk about how not to detox after the detox, and Lauren, I already sent you that email with video because I knew you couldn't wait
to watch the video tonight. I watched part of it so far, but yeah.
I talk about, that and what habits are you taking beyond this and how do you want to continue? Because unfortunately, we live in a world where the toxins are always coming in. So it's not about stressing out about the toxins. It's about just being able to make choices in helping get the toxins out. So you've done your 21-day detox now, Lauren. You've started yours, Christy. What are you going to do 3 months from now? That's where we recommend the 7-day. And trust me, the 7-day is so much easier than the 21-day. It's like over before it's even begun. And it's a really easy habit to build. And then if you're doing that and you're not struggling at all on your fasting days, then you can go ahead and start implementing the 1-day weekly fast if you would like to. It totally becomes a choice.
So I was doing a 1 day a week of a 24-hour fast before I started this. So is that something I should not go back to immediately?
No, I think it's something that you can, because we saw how your metabolic flexibility even increased from week 1 to week 2 to week 3.
Yeah.
And so because you were already doing it, you can absolutely go ahead and do it. Do it with the shakes though. Don't just do a straight water fast. If you do it with the shakes, then your body's getting the nutrition that it needs and you're supporting your body while allowing your body to have that extra 24 hours of deep cleaning.
Okay. So, and you can just buy the shake mix on its own, or do you do the supplements with it as well on a fast day?
I don't do the supplements with it. You can, I don't. I feel like everything else that I've been doing is fine and it's all on a regular basis. So I just do the shakes. Yes, you can just buy the shakes on their own. And you can get them from my website. Just go to the shop button and right next to the detox kit are the shakes. I do know there is, for you, Lauren, because you're in the States, you don't pay shipping and you don't have duties and taxes, etc. It makes sense for you to do the subscribe option because you get 15% off.
Okay.
You do the subscribe and save, and then they'll ship it to you every month, right? And two pouches last you a month if you use it every single day. So you can figure out how often you want to receive it, and you can change that. It's really flexible. Christy, for you, I know you can drive down and pick it up in the States, but you probably want to do it in bulk.
Yeah.
So when you buy it on the website, click the full price one. But then if you put 6 packages in your cart, you also get 15% off. And then you're just buying it the one time and you're getting your 6 packages off.
Okay.
I mean, you're 15% off.
Right. Okay.
Also know April 17th, they're doing a sale where if you buy 6 of anything, you get 15% off, but they said most things. So I just don't know if the DNS is in that or not. And actually the deal there was buy 6, get 2 free. So you could wait because April 17th is right around the corner. You could wait and see if that offer applies to this particular product, and then you get 8 for the price of 6. And if not, you can still do it the other way where you buy 6 and you get the 15% off and you just buy it in bulk and then pick it up as you need it. So I will keep you guys posted on that. So how are you feeling, Lauren, just in terms of how are you feeling now versus how you were feeling at the beginning? I would just love kind of a recap for you on what you've noticed.
Yeah, I'm still having a little bit of the, sort of up and down of energy, but it's way less. I was literally in the afternoons after lunch. I couldn't really do much. I was tired and foggy brained, and I am able to work, pretty much the full day now. And I was working on taxes this morning, and it didn't like freak me out because usually it's like, my brain won't do that. It's like, no, it's just fine. It was easy. So, I mean, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't like it usually is. I feel overall, I feel a lot stronger. I do have low blood pressure. That's still, it's an ongoing thing. So that's still occasionally I have that, like I have no energy in my muscles, but I know that's a salt thing. I've been sleeping a lot better the whole time. Starting with the first couple of days. I think the first night I didn't sleep terribly well, but after that it was like, and I'm one that can take an hour to fall asleep after I go to bed. And I have a sleep app and it's like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and I'm asleep. So
nice.
That's a vast improvement. Today was the first day I wanted a hamburger. I haven't missed. Again, this eating plan is not that different from what I was already doing with a big salad for lunch, although I would have some animal protein in that. So I didn't do that, but, and then protein and veg for dinner. So the eating plan hasn't been that different for me. The snacking, thank God for the shakes. It's like, oh, I get a shake. Okay. My husband laughs at me. He's like, oh, it's shake time, huh? Yeah, shake time. But overall, I feel a lot healthier. My elimination has changed. It's still kind of, I don't know if it's normal yet or not, but, the focus, the brain fog is gone 95 or 98% of the time now. And that for me was the big goal, is because I'm all about the brain health right now. I dropped 5 pounds, which is exactly what I wanted to. I even dipped below it, and then I came right back up to my goal, and I thought, I should have set that goal lower. I hit my goal, and then it's like, okay, you hit it, you're there. So.
And because you are so intuitive too, right? And you manifest it like that.
Yep, like that. So, it was like, yep. Okay, no, we're stopping there, which is fine. It's where I had maintained for about 2 years during the pandemic. So it's all my clothes fit better and, that kind of stuff. But primarily what I'm noticing is clarity of mind and a lot more energy, just mental energy, just to be able to continue focusing for a lot longer period of time. So yeah, I'm a fan.
That's awesome. And then when we run your labs, have you had a chance to do your labs yet? Or
I was going to ask you because you had told me to wait until I got done with this.
Right.
So
yes, I did.
I do them tomorrow?
But now you can start doing them. You don't want to do all 5 in one day, but you can plan out how to do them over the next few days. Okay. So you just go back to all of the instructions, the hair tissue mineral one. If you don't have any color in your hair, that's less than
none.
Perfect. So
you got any for
you can do that one tomorrow. Just get your husband to help you clip a little bit of hair from the back of your neck. Super easy to do. You could wake up and do your omega one tomorrow, because all you have to do is be fasted overnight. So just do that blood spot first thing in the morning. The hormones one, you need to read the instructions before doing it, just to make sure there's no any hormone creams that you're using, etc. If you have any, or any hormone supplements that you're stopping them a little bit before. No.
Yep, okay. Nope. Haven't done those for years.
Okay. No cycle. So then you can do that one anytime, but that one is 4 cortisol samples through the day. So you want to make sure that's a day where you can do that easily.
Right.
You're not popping in and out. So that might be more of a weekend day, perhaps.
So I'm going on vacation starting Sunday for a week.
Yep.
So should I go ahead and do some of
You
these
can,
now and just finish it up when I get back?
I think you can probably get them all done before you go.
Okay. All right.
So if you do your hair and your omega-3 tomorrow morning, that's Wednesday
Mhm.
morning. If you could maybe plan to do the hormone one on the Saturday, if you're mostly home on Saturday, or if you're mostly home during the workday, you can do it
Yeah.
on a weekday. You just need to make sure your cortisol samples are on an empty stomach. So the first sample, first thing when you wake up in the morning, all you've done is rinse your mouth with water, not swallowed it. Just rinse it, spit it back out, and then do your first cortisol sample.
Okay.
And then after you do that, you're going to do that blood spot.
Okay.
And then you do your next 3 cortisol samples before lunch, before dinner, before bed, but on an empty stomach more than 2 hours after eating.
All right.
Okay. Your urine sample 1, you could do on either Thursday or Friday or Saturday morning. So it's first urine of the morning after like 6 hours of not urinating. So you get a good yellow color. And for that one, you just want to make sure that you haven't had any apples, pears. There's a few things in the list that I sent you of not to eat.
Okay.
48 hours ahead of time. So look at that list. If you haven't eaten them in the last 48 hours, you can do that one tomorrow morning too.
Okay.
And then the last one is the food sensitivity. So that one needs a little bit of planning because now that you're off the detox, if you have foods that you are like, I think I might have a sensitivity to it and you want to test it, you need to eat them 2 times over 2 days in order to get them into your bloodstream again, because you've just had them out for the last 3 weeks, right? Now it is 190 different foods. You're not going to test all 190 foods, but sometimes people are like, I'm not sure about this. I want to test it, right? And so then I want to make sure you have the chance to eat it a little bit over 2 days before you do that blood spot.
Right.
So yeah, you can get them all done before you go.
Okay, good.
And then, yeah, I'll send you links to book into my calendar so we can review them. Perfect.
I got to turn a fan on. It's hot
No
in here.
problem. And then, Christy, I know I saw you in a networking meeting earlier, but you're on day 2, feeling a little bit brain foggy and off right now. Is there anything else that you're noticing other than just how you're feeling in your brain right now?
I mean, a little bit of body fatigue. So even like this morning, I only cleaned 3 of the 6 stalls at the barn, and I'm going to do the other 3 after work. Partially because it'll distract me, but just then it splits the work up a little bit. And so I figure, I'll go home and I'll go down to the barn. I've got to feed the horses anyways and clean the last 3 stalls. And then I will just go relax for a bit. And, that's sort of, I don't have too much planned for this evening. At least tonight, I'm not making anything. Like last night, I made the black bean soup, which actually that's a question I have. How much of that should I be eating? Because I made that as my Wednesday lunch, and then I'll do the chicken stir fry for dinner on Wednesday night. But I just didn't know how much of that I should have, like, because in the little guide, they say like, half a cup of this and 1 to 2 cups of that. So when it's soup, it's a little bit harder because everything's mixed together.
So you can mix it together for that amount. So like the carbs are 1 to 2 cups and the proteins a half to 1 cup. So you could do 3 cups. But what I like to have people start doing is creating awareness in listening to your body rather than in measuring everything all the time.
Yeah.
So I talk about this next week in more detail in our digestion week, but what I recommend is that you serve what you think you would like to eat. Now, bearing in mind that you're going to be hungry and your eyes might be bigger than your stomach when you're breaking your fast, so serve yourself a little bit less, right? Yeah. And then really be mindful about eating it. Eat it slowly. Eat it over 20 minutes. It'll be very easy because it's so good to just inhale it, right? Yeah. But really consciously choose to eat it slowly over 20 minutes and really focus on chewing. Even though it's soup, it is still thick enough for you to be able to chew. Okay. And the chewing starts to produce the salivary enzymes, which support the digestive system.
Right.
When we slow down, it allows our hormone leptin to be produced. And that's our satiety hormone that allows us to know when we're full. And what happens is we so often eat in a rush, on the run, we're just eating it all in. And that hormone doesn't have time to be released and signal to us that we're full, right? But when we slow down, it does. And so enjoy it over the 20 minutes and then notice the time. And then if 20 minutes later, your body is still telling you that you're hungry, go ahead and have a little bit more because you're not meant to be hungry on the program. However, chances are you'll get busy with work doing other things and your body isn't going to kick in and tell you that you're hungry until when it's time for your shake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that kind of awareness will guide you in the quantities of food that your body needs to eat on any given day based on your energy output, physical and mental, and is a much better way of determining what you should be eating than getting worried about doing a whole lot of measuring.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I mean, I've been doing macros for the last year and a bit, and it hasn't benefited me, put it that way. Like,
Right.
you know, and there's days where, there was definitely in the beginning of that plan where we did a quote unquote calorie deficit. And I think that actually did me a disservice. And one of the things that I really noticed when we watched the talk from Dr. Stephan Calbert, is that how you say his name? Or the guy that created
yeah.
Cabral, thank you. Because my personal trainer, she's part of the Faster Way to Fat Loss program, and she went to their convention in Florida, and he was one of the speakers. And so she's when I told her what I was doing, and she's like, oh, that's who we saw talk. So she got a copy and we went and watched it. And he talked about, how we can actually like disrupt the way our body's supposed to work. And everything he said in that talk, I'm like, that's exactly me from all my years of bodybuilding and running and eating a specific way. And it wasn't necessarily always that I ate crappy foods. It was just so dialed in and there was a certain amount, but some days it felt like way too much food and other days it didn't feel like enough. So she tried to play with like a calorie deficit and then adding more calories. And I think my body's just like, no, stop. Like I want to eat intuitively and I don't want to track on my fitness pal every day. I don't want to live the rest of my life like that.
Right. And that causes stress. And then that stress then weakens the immune system, weakens the digestive system, and it has us end up holding on to weight. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I love what Dr. Cabral teaches and what I teach. And it's a beautiful segue into today's session, which is understanding the right way to eat for your body. And your microbiome is as unique as your fingerprints. And your microbiome actually goes back 4 generations on your mother's side.
Oh.
And so think about where your great-great-grandmother used to live and the food that she used to eat, because it's probably very different to what you're eating today. Other things that impact your microbiome are whether you were born vaginally or by C-section. Were you breastfed? Were you bottle fed? And then after birth, no 2 humans have ever eaten or been exposed to the same foods, toxins, et cetera, every day of their life the same way, which is why your microbiome becomes so unique. And so that's why I don't buy into the perfect way to eat for the human. And you got all the keto people saying it must be keto. You've got all the vegan people over here saying it must be vegan. You've got the paleo people. You've got the carnivore people, right? I'm working with a client right now that he's got super high heavy metal toxicity. He's only 24 years old, been diagnosed with ALS.
Oh gosh.
Family's trying to do everything to support them. And they found somebody who cured herself from MS with the carnivore diet, right? So they wanted to work with her and with me. And I was like, I'm wary of the carnivore diet, but let me talk to this lady. And then she said, well, it's not I'm not going to really have him on the full carnivore diet. It's going to have all of this included. 1 week of that, smoked him. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. His immune system was too weak. His digestive system was too weak to be able to handle all of that protein.
Yeah.
And so it might have been a great healing program for her, but that doesn't mean it works for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the piece here, is to give yourselves grace that what you're doing for you can come from your body and the awareness from your body, and learning that versus thinking you have to do what's being pushed at you by friends, by family, or through the media. And yes, everyone means well if they say, oh, I did the keto diet and I lost so much weight and you should do it too. Yes, they mean well, but they're not you. And so the fact that we need to find out the right way to eat for our unique body is very freeing for many people, because we can release all of these misconceptions that there's one diet, or if this diet's working for so many people, there must be something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. That particular program just doesn't work for your unique microbiome. So I'm going to share my screen. I want to share a few things with you. Let me just pull up this for today's. Oh, now I got to move all of us out of the way. So here we are in the student portal, right? And you click on the health kickstart and detox documents. And then I clicked on week 2, and these are the documents. So the first thing you'll see is the 4-day energy experiment. And I put this in week 2 because I want you to know about it to do when you finish the detox. So Lauren, you could start doing this now, and you would have time to do it between now and when you finish. It's a 1-pager. What it's helping you do is determine the right type of protein for your unique body. So you just follow what it says on the form. So one day is going to have you eating all animal protein. Now, if you don't eat animal protein and you already know that that's just your choice, that's fine. You don't have to do the energy experiment. But if you do eat animal and you do eat plant, and you'd kind of like to know which gives me more energy, this is perfect, right? Okay. So one day is all animal, one day is all plant, and then the other 2 days are mixing it up. And after each meal, you're noting how you're feeling and what your energy is immediately upon eating, and then setting a timer on your watch to do a check-in about 2 hours later, and see what comes out of that for you. Okay. So I did this, and for me, I'm a mix, right? And so I pretty much do plant-based every single lunch, and I do animal probably 4 times a week for my dinner. Right? And it's really nice to know that. Well, the other thing too is that the way we eat can change throughout our lifetime. We don't eat the same way as adults as we did as teenagers, or teenagers as we did as babies, or seniors as we did even as adults, right? And so it's also about giving yourself the flexibility to notice as you go through life where things can change, and that you don't have to stay stuck to one program. And so, very often we'll hear, vegans telling other people, well, you have to be vegan, right? Or vegetarians telling their friends, you have to be vegetarian. Nobody has to be anything. It truly is about listening to what is right for your body. And when you do something like this, then you can stand really confident in that. And know, great, I'm so happy that you're vegan and you feel great as a vegan. But you know what? For me, I need this for my energy. I've, done a 4-day energy experiment to test it. And this is what I need in my life right now. So that you're not feeling pressured by other people to join their program. Their program might work for them. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So, Christy, you can do that when you've finished your 21-day detox. Lauren, if you want to get it done before you head away, you can, or you can do it when you come back, either or.
Yeah, I'm interested in doing it because I had to add red meat to my diet in my 40s to offset the hormones that I was on. Right. My health was terrible, and just because we worked with a Chinese doctor earlier who talked about yin and yang with our son. He said, for Alex, the game changer was red meat, because I was not red meat for decades. Right. And the minute I added it back in, my health turned around. Yeah. So I know, I think I'm probably a mix, but I want to challenge it and see. Yeah. And just see. And, it's interesting that you say that, because again, our body can also give us clues. I have actually had a client crying. She was vegan, crying because she had a craving for red meat. And
I've heard a lot of people have that before. Lots of friends of mine actually. And yeah. And it's sometimes happened in that, or it's happened in pregnancies or whatever. And yeah, your body's like, I need that. Yeah.
So I said to her, well, have you thought about the fact that your body's just trying to communicate to you that maybe you're low in iron, maybe you're low in B12, and it's telling you the best way that you can get that right now. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just what your body needs.
Right.
And our body, any symptom we have is our body trying to communicate with us and asking us to do something differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to listen to that and act on it. And at some point, you know, then you can try being vegan again if you really want to be vegan again and see what happens. But right now, you're needing more iron and B12, chances are, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, our body really does talk to us. So the awareness that we have, the more we pay attention, the more we tune in, the more answers we get. So a couple of other documents that are here for you are top 12 diet tips. It's not about dieting, it's about eating well. There's a healthy shopping list. Again, this isn't just for during the detox. This healthy shopping list is just to have on hand for shopping forevermore. There's the weight maintenance diet, weight gain diet, and weight loss diet. So coming off the detox program, where are you at? Do you want to maintain? Do you want to lose more? Or do you actually need to gain some? Because some people lose quite a bit of weight on this program and then they want to gain a little bit of it back. So that gives you an indication of how to structure your eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it is from Dr. Cabral. You'll hear next week in digestion, I do promote shakes as the way to start your day, and I'll explain all of why. So that's there for you. I just want you to know these resources are there. And again, it's giving you portion sizes as ideas, but it's not having you weighing and measuring and calculating, etc. And then there's also a document there on how to read food labels as well. Very, very important. And then in week 2.5, there's a couple sessions there or articles there that you can look into. The 10 most inflammatory foods to avoid, as well as carbs are not bad. And we're going to talk about some of these myths today as well as a video that you can watch by Dr. Zach Bush about our nutrient deplete soil systems. And if we go back to the homepage, I created a YouTube training series on supplements, and that is there that you can now watch. It's 10 or 12 videos, just really short little videos, just taking you through supplements and issues with the supplement industry, and then how to be able to choose good quality supplements and the difference between good quality and not so good quality supplements and why that happens. So that's all there for you to access as well. Okay. And I'm going to stop sharing that. And then I want to share PowerPoint with you. So because we're talking about nutrition today, I want to share with you the cost of poor nutrition that you're probably already aware of, but these numbers just really highlight it. So chronic conditions, this is US, are accounting for 90% of the nation's $3.8 trillion spend in annual healthcare expenditures. Heart disease and stroke cost our healthcare system $216 billion per year, and that's not even including lost productivity. In 2013, more than $300 billion was attributed to arthritis care.
Wow.
Arthritis is literally triggered because of dysbiosis or imbalance in the gut, right? It doesn't have to be just masked with drugs to ease the pain. Obesity is costing nearly $150 billion a year. In 2017, $327 billion in medical costs and lost productivity were attributed to diabetes. And then the cost of cancer care continues to rise and is expected to reach $240 billion. So to put that another way, here's a chart. And this is even a fairly old chart, but it was the most recent that I can find because it's factored out to 2030. But the number of Americans with chronic medical conditions, look at that steady rise. And the combination is lifestyle factors. It's the toxic load. It's the poor nutrition. It's the high stress, the poor sleep, the lack of movement that is triggering all of this. And yet, unfortunately, our medical industry isn't talking to people about this, and they're giving them a drug to mask the symptom, which causes another symptom, and they get another drug. And that's what Big Pharma wants, because that's how they make money, having everybody on a drug for the rest of their life. And unfortunately, the education system isn't teaching people this. And you laugh, Christy, but it's true.
It is true. But this is the whole reason I'm here, looking at my parents' like medical cabinets, and it's just like, my mom has this pill case and it's just full. And when my dad was still alive, his was even fuller. And it's just like, you take a pill to do one thing, and then you have to take a pill to counteract the side effects or the problems that other pill caused. And it's horrible. Like, my dad would have never got AFib if he hadn't had to take a certain cancer drug or a certain thyroid drug. And it just makes me so frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what isn't known, like, we know that heart disease is the number one killer in North America. And I think number 2 is cancer. Number 3 is drugs taken as prescribed by medical doctors. It's not even mistakes. Yes.
Crazy.
Like an overdose, or like just from causing problems?
Causing problems and side effects, because when you start putting this concoction of so many drugs together, they don't know all of the possible side effects. And you've heard the ads on television. Talk to your doctor about this drug to help you with this. And don't take it if you have this, or this, and may cause this, and this, right? They don't know all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does become a little bit of an experiment. And unfortunately, people are losing their lives. So there's a couple factors there. There's one where there's just the over medication scenario. And then there's others with the situation where the drugs are being made overseas and there isn't enough oversight into the state of the plants that are manufacturing these drugs. And this happens more in the no-name ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you get, all sorts of toxicity inside the drugs because they're being made in places like China and India, where the standards of care and cleanliness aren't as high. So my recommendation is do not take no-name drugs at all. Like, even like how you can get Tylenol and then you can get the store brand.
Mm-hmm.
Stay away from the store brands.
Okay.
Safety is not there. If you want to read a book on that, it's called, I have it on my bookshelf. So there's 2 books on the pharmaceutical industry that I've read. They're both very good, very enlightening, hard to read because I already knew what was happening before I read them, but the lack of care from the pharmaceutical industry about human beings is horrific. So one of them is called Our Daily Meds. That's about Big Pharma. It's written by a journalist who used to write for the New York Times about Big Pharma. And then when she saw what was happening, she quit her job and started investigating Big Pharma. So her name's Melody Peterson. And then the other book is called Bottles of Lies. And that's written by Catherine Eban. And that's the one. And it's literally a story, but she's gone deeper investigating the story from a whistleblower that used to work in Big Pharma in the US, was recruited because he was an Indian fellow, was recruited back to India to work in India when they started moving all of this offshore. And then he became a whistleblower. And it's his story of what's happening where there isn't enough oversight. So it's a problem and it kills people. So the best thing we can do is exactly what you're doing. What I'm doing is take control of our health up front so we don't need to be dependent on those drugs down the line. And here's another, I went backwards. Why am I going backwards? Let's go forwards. There we go. Chronic diseases in America. 6 in 10 adults in the US have one chronic disease. 4 in 10 have more than 2.
Wow.
And by chronic disease, I'm talking about heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, some forms of cancer, leaky gut, obesity, autoimmune diseases, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
All of them are lifestyle diseases. And all of them we can undo if people know how to detox and start rebalancing their body. And that's my mission, is to help people realize that your dis-ease doesn't have to be a life sentence. The human body is so incredible. When we bring it back to a place of balance and create that environment for it to heal, it will heal. It's just that, again, right now we're out of balance and we're depleted because of high stress, poor nutrition, poor sleep, and depleted soil systems. Hence that video that I have in the student portal for you. So this is just interesting numbers for you as to how our health has changed over the last couple of centuries. Going back to 1912, so just over 100 years, that was the first known case of heart disease in the US. By the 1930s, it was the #1 killer already. And by 2010, 1 in 3 people are dying of cardiovascular heart disease.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
You're both doing your labs. You'll see when you get your lab results on your omega-3, omega-6 lab results, which is an assessment for inflammation in your body. It says right on the lab that if we bring your inflammation level to where ideally it should be, we reduce the risk of sudden death by cardiovascular disease by 90%, 90.
Man.
Wow.
Yay.
How do you, okay, and I mean, maybe this is coming later, but like, you know, we can get our inflammation down, but how do we know we're keeping it down?
And so, yeah, coming later, but it is about creating the new lifestyle habits, right? Is you know what it takes to bring it down. It's change. And we, in terms of oils, one of the areas where we get a lot of omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory, that's coming from vegetable oil, sunflower oil, saffron oil. A lot of the oils are really high in omega-6s. The ones that are higher in omega-3s that you want to be using are your avocado oil, your macadamia nut oil, your coconut oil, your olive oil. Those are the 4 best oils to be using when it comes to cooking or even in salad dressings, etc. Even though a lot of recipes you'll find will still be asking for the other types of oils. Making sure that you're, honestly, 80% of the North American population is deficient in omega-3s. And so making sure that you're supplementing and or eating wild fatty fish at least 3 to 4 times a week. And your wild fatty fish are salmon, trout, sardines, anchovies, catfish, rockfish, etc. Most people aren't eating them even once a week, right? And so we get omega-6s are in almost everything that we eat, and particularly any processed food are using those cheaper oils high in omega-6s. And so it's not that we're not necessarily getting enough omega-3s, it's just we're getting so many omega-6s that it's putting us out of balance. And because the omega-6s are inflammatory, it's creating that inflammation, right? So we have to consciously choose to increase our omega-3s. That's one way, Christy, to answer your question.
Okay.
And another way is you run your food sensitivity lab. You find out if you have food sensitivities, because every time you eat food that you are sensitive to, that will trigger inflammation in the body. So now you have a choice. It's like, okay, I'm sensitive to that. Maybe I'm not going to have it as often, right? And we talk about that when we go through your lab. Mm-hmm. Healing your gut, making sure that your gut is in good balance helps lower inflammation, because whenever your gut is out of balance, that's causing stress on the body. It triggers inflammation. So it's really just putting a focus on your health, putting a focus on your sleep, putting a focus on your stress. Stress causes inflammation in the body. And as you have all of this awareness, it allows you to just make better choices. And as you make better choices, then you know that you are doing everything you can to be keeping your inflammation level down. Mm-hmm. So that's heart disease. Here's type 2 diabetes. Mm-hmm. So again, oops, I'm trying to move the bar so I can see the stats at the bottom. There we go. Between just like 1960 to 2015, which is only 55 years, you're seeing it go from less than 1% to just under 10% of the population. Wow. And the fascinating thing about type 2 diabetes is that many people have type 2 diabetes and walking around and have it and don't know it yet, because they haven't gone and done their blood work to find out, right? So that just under 10% is probably a low number in reality. Then we have obesity rates, and this is scary. So we go from 1.2% of the population is obese in the 19th century to 42.4% in 2021. That's massive, right? And one of the problems with that is back in the 1980s. So like look at 1988, 23%. Okay. Around that time, our governments were concerned about the rise in heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. And so they started looking at what can we do in order to help our population avoid these chronic diseases and be healthier. So they came up with the idea that if you don't want to be fat, don't eat fat.
Yep.
Right? So then they took the fat out of the food and we went to a low fat, no fat diet. It was pushed out through the media. Everybody knew that if you wanted to be healthy, you had to choose no fat, low fat. Fat made you fat. That's what we were told. Our digestive system is not that simple. That is completely flawed logic. And here's the interesting thing. Fat in food and fat on our body is only the same word in the English language. So this was only a huge problem in English-speaking countries. Look around the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. They didn't fall for this because they didn't have that same logic of if you don't want to be fat, don't eat fat, right? Mm-hmm. So they take the fat out of the food. Well, the fat, first of all, adds flavor. So you take the fat out, food started tasting like cardboard. Have you ever heard healthy food tastes like cardboard? That's where it came from. Nobody wanted it, right? So then the food industry was like, well, this isn't going to work. How are we going to have people buy our food if they don't like it? Let's make them like it. Let's add sugar. So they start adding sugar and people start liking the food and they buy more and more because sugar is actually highly addictive. So it actually completely backfired. Our brain is made up of fat and water. It needs good quality fat for good energy. Our digestive system needs that fat in every meal, a little bit, good quality fat, along with some fiber to help slow down the digestion of whatever else we're eating so we can feel satiated for longer, so we don't feel like we have to have a snack every hour. We shouldn't be snacking every hour. We should go 3.5 to 4 hours between meals to allow the body to digest, clean, and then eat again. But if we're not getting the good quality fat in, we're not satiated and we are reaching for snacks every hour to keep us going and give us the energy that we need for our mental focus, our physical focus, because we get energy from food, we get energy from sleep. Can't necessarily take a nap in the middle of the workday, but we can eat another Kit Kat or sugary muffin or whatever to keep us going. And that's what's happening. And that's what's driven this obesity problem. And to this day, there is still so much no fat, low fat in the grocery stores, even though the science has proven this is huge failure. The failure wasn't publicized. Mm-hmm. So people don't know. So they still think they're doing the right thing, choosing no fat, low fat. And I remember I didn't know this until I got into health coaching school. When I was in the corporate world, I didn't know this. I still knew what the media fed me, low fat, no fat. And then I learned this and I learned the science. I'm like, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. And I'm in the grocery store and I'm buying whole milk instead of skim milk. And I reach for the whole milk and my brain's like, what are you doing? And I had to actually talk to myself in front of the milk counter in the grocery store to say, no, I do actually know what I'm doing now, because now I know the science and now I'm choosing differently. Mm-hmm. But my brain caught me there because I was doing something different. And I had to be able to talk myself through it. The average person may not be able to do that if they haven't actually, learned the science or learned the lesson. And so it's still a problem to this day, unfortunately. In fact, my own doctor, because doctors aren't taught nutrition at school. Oh. I haven't seen her for a number of years. However, it was probably before COVID for sure. So 3-4 years ago, she was telling me how her partner insists on having whole milk at Starbucks and how she thinks he's crazy and she always gets the skim milk. And he says it's not worth the drink if you don't get the whole milk. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not even going to start trying to explain this to you because we don't have time and you're not going to hear it because you're so adamant right now about telling me how your partner is wrong.
That's how I feel about sour cream. When I buy it, I'm like, get the full fat.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. And
Try
yogurt.
full fat yogurt.
Yeah, same that. Yeah, when I do have those things, which isn't often, but yeah.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you, it is also hard. It is even still in the case of yogurt. Quite often it is difficult to find the full fat because people are still believing that they're still looking for the 0% fat or the 2% milk fat. And I'm like, where the heck is the plain Greek yogurt with
10% fat?
Yeah. It's really hard to find. And maybe at different stores it's a little easier, but at my grocery store, it's not even always there.
Yeah,
I have this problem. Yeah.
I do too.
And I only get it in like these ginormous containers too. So
well, that's the other problem. I mean, geez, I wish that they wouldn't always be in like ice cream pails.
Yeah.
Of yogurt.
No, I agree. I have that same problem as well. And so I just tend not to buy it at all anymore.
Well, me too.
Hard time finding it. And again, our choices shift the way that we eat, right? And hopefully over time, as people are learning this and buying less and less of the no fat, it starts to shift what's available at the local grocery stores too. So then this last slide is just talking about the cancer deaths and the increase in that since 1900 to 2010. And, in 1900, it was 5.8% of deaths. And then 2010, it's 31.1%. And a huge part of the cancer deaths is the toxicity in the body, right? And over that time, we've had such an influx of toxins come into our world, which is why, as I said earlier, we don't just do the 21 detox once and think we're good to go. We keep, getting those toxins out every quarter so that, we're staying on top of our health and reducing the risk of this cancer. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And so we've touched on, in terms of the myths that I like to bust up, we've touched on the no fat, low fat. Another one is eggs are bad or cholesterol is bad. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
And our body makes cholesterol. We need cholesterol. And so often we get into these ideas of, if it's bad, everything about it must be bad, right? And not all cholesterol is bad. There's HDL, there's LDL cholesterol, and not even all LDL cholesterol is bad. The very small particle LDL is the harmful type. And we get that from eating foods that are high sugar, high starch diets, and not getting enough good quality food. And so as we start to shift our diet, we start to reduce our very small LDL. And on the detox program, I've actually taken many people who've started off with high cholesterol, and by the time they finish the 21 days, their cholesterol levels are normal.
So I just had my blood tests done before I started this.
I remember you were planning to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we always, my husband and I get the particle size test done because when we were doing keto, that was something you needed to bring to their attention. And the doctor still says, and it came back with, good particle size and everything, all together, she's fine. But my doctor still says I'm borderline high on the bad, she said, the bad cholesterol.
Right.
I've told her I'm not taking any medications. It's like, drives me crazy. Yeah.
Will be interesting when you test it again to see how different it is after having done the detox. And there are natural supplements that we can use to also support cholesterol as well. So you don't need any medications for it. Another myth is starting your day with fruit juice is a healthy way to start the day. And it is not. Although I was raised that way, like drink your orange juice or drink your milk, right? So fruit juice is simply the juice of the fruit without the fiber. You're getting all of the natural sugars, but you're not getting any of the fiber. And so what happens is it will trigger an insulin spike because you're just literally just shooting your body full of sugar, fructose. Versus when you eat the piece of fruit, you're getting the fiber, which then slows down your body's digestion of it, and it slows down that insulin spike. Every time you put food in your mouth, their insulin is released. But is it being released like this, or is it being released like this? I kind of joke that even before COVID, I was talking about flattening the curve, the insulin curve, right? And we do that by making sure that when we're having fructose or some kind of sugar, that we're also having some protein with it, some fat with it, or some fiber with it to flatten that curve. Ever heard that milk is your best source of calcium?
Yeah,
Yes.
but I don't buy it.
Buy it either.
Dairy industry loves to tell us that. And in reality, on the top 15 sources of calcium, milk is 15th.
Mm.
So we don't have to drink another mammal's milk. And in fact, most humans have some level of intolerance to dairy, whether it's an intolerance to the lactose, whether it's an intolerance to the protein casein. Most humans have some level of intolerance. And in fact, it's white people that have the least intolerance. Asians and Hispanics and Black people have a far higher degree of intolerance to cow's milk. Yeah. So great alternatives are almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk. Those are the three that I like. I don't love soy milk. And the reason I don't love soy milk is it's very high in estrogen, and it can shoot your estrogen levels through the roof and cause hormonal imbalances, which then have a whole other spin-off of side effects. And I've experienced that myself back in the corporate world, listening to my sister, which is, again, listening to other people. You can listen. It doesn't mean you have to act on it, right? My sister was living in Japan at the time. She was reading US news. Yes, there's a lot of hormones added in to fed to cows in the US to hurry up the milk production, increase the size of the milk production, etc. And all of those hormones come through into our body. So she was thinking that the same was true in Canada. It's actually not. Canada has laws against that. It's not perfect, but it's not to the same degree as the US. Not to the same degree as the US. And so she was choosing soy milk because she was in Japan. It's easily available. So I started drinking soy milk, and I started getting wicked migraines. And I didn't really connect the dots, but I came home and I said to my I came back from Japan, then I had to go to Calgary, and I thought the migraines were maybe because I was traveling, exhausted, and jet lag and all of that, right? But I ended up writing to my naturopath and saying, I started drinking soy milk, just like a cup a day. Could that be triggering these migraines? And she wrote back and said, stop drinking it and see what happens, which is kind of what I thought as I was writing the email. So, yep, stop drinking it. Guess what? They stopped happening, but I still didn't understand the why until I did all of this training. And that soy is so high in estrogen. And for me, progesterone, my migraines are triggered when my progesterone is low. So it's not that my progesterone had dropped, it was that my estrogen had gone up, which made my body feel like my progesterone was low, triggered the migraine. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of women that are already in a very estrogen dominant state already. And so I just don't want to make that worse. And knowing how sensitive I am to soy, other people can be too. I don't want them drinking soy milk and putting themselves in a worse state of estrogen dominance, because that can slow the thyroid and cause metabolism issues, thyroid issues. It can put people on the path of type 2 diabetes, and it can cause breast cancer. So that's why I don't like soy milk. Another one that we've heard, and there's an article in the student portal that I showed you, was that all carbs are bad, right? Carbs are not bad. An entire food group cannot be bad. However, maybe having too many simple carbs might be bad, right? And you can make better choices around the carbs that you are eating. But again, another grandiose statement that we hear from certain proponents of different diets: carbs are bad. Mm-hmm. Another one, bread is your best source of fiber. We hear that as well. Again, on a list of top 10, bread comes in at the bottom. We got beans that are above it. We've got whole grains, brown rice, even popcorn, nuts, baked potato with the skin on it, berries, any cereal with more than 5 grams of fiber in it, oatmeal, and veggies. The crunchier the veggie, the better. all have more fiber than your standard loaf of bread. Another one that you might have heard is that nutrition has nothing to do with healing your body.
What? Oh my God.
You actually can hear that sometimes from medical doctors, as crazy as that is.
That should be malpractice right there.
The natural medicine for us.
Exactly, right? And, for thousands of years, we've used plant-based remedies for our ills, and it works, right? It truly works. But again, in the last 50 to 100 years, we've been led to believe that's all woo-woo. It's all, old wives' tales. And here's your chemical drug that's going to do you so much better, right? That is what our body can handle, and it knows what it is, and it knows how to respond to it, versus the chemical drug that the liver still has to clear out. And it still is like, I don't know what this is. Another one is gut health isn't important to our long-term health. And I love, and it still blows my mind to think about this, but Hippocrates said, and Hippocrates lived what, 2,000 years before Christ, right? So how many years ago is that? 4,000 years ago now? He said that all disease starts in the gut. So when we focus on the health of our gut, we're again keeping our inflammation levels low. The triggers to turn on the genes for any dis-ease that we may be predisposed through genetically doesn't have to turn on. And that's the beautiful science of epigenetics. Our genes are only 5 to 10% of the equation. I don't know if you saw my newsletter from last Sunday, but I literally called it "Don't Blame Your Genes."
I like to.
It was my podcast. Sorry. So it was in my newsletter. And I love the science of epigenetics because we now know this, and it allows people to recognize that they have so much more power in their health than they ever thought they did. And a lot of it is up here. For how many generations were women told that, well, if your mother had breast cancer, your sister had breast cancer, you're going to get breast cancer. Maybe we should do a mastectomy first. Like that was happening. Where they run genetics and see that you have the gene, and then like, oh, you're going to get it. Let's do the mastectomy. So not needed. And yet sometimes those women would get breast cancer because in the back of their mind is this fear. They've been told they're going to get it. It's there all the time. Where we put our focus is what we get more of.
Yep.
Again, malpractice, I think. Nobody should be telling anybody what they're going to get. Just like nobody can tell anybody when they're going to heal, but you can guide them and give them the steps that they can take and the belief that they can heal, and then they can focus on that and they will heal. Another one is I can't afford to eat healthy foods. And this is a fascinating one because there's been research done. And when we eat healthy foods and we feel satiated and we don't need all those little extra snacks, we actually save money compared to when we are eating all of those little snacks that we don't think amount to much. But when you add up the cost of them over the course of a month, it actually costs more than buying whole food, good quality produce, good quality meats, etc., feeling satiated and not needing all of those little extra snacks. Another one is that weight loss equals calories in and calories out.
My husband needs to listen to this.
Again, we are not that simple. So that's a piece of it, but it's not that simple. And I'll show you why it doesn't work. And Christy, this is possibly what happened with you. That people who believe calories in, calories out, and they want to lose weight, they just keep taking in fewer and fewer calories. And then they're getting down to maybe 800 calories in a day and 700 calories in a day and starving themselves. Well, the brain is charged with keeping us alive. So the brain's like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're barely feeding me what I need, and I need to keep me alive. So I'm going to slow down my metabolism to make this little bit of food that you're giving me last. And then you give it less food because you're not losing weight. And so then the body has to slow down the metabolism more. And you basically tank your metabolism with that belief of it's calories in, calories out. It doesn't work because the body will keep you alive. Another one, supplements are a waste of money. So there can be that belief out there, and there certainly are supplements that are a waste of money. And that's why I put together that YouTube series for you. Supplements that are made by big pharma, that are made with the intent of making profit and using the lowest cost ingredients, are a waste of money. And yes, your body might not be able to absorb them. And yes, you might pee them right out. And so you're peeing out your money, all these sayings that we've heard. When you're on the holistic side and you're using functional medicine brand supplements, it is very different. Because those supplements are not made with the intent of profit. They are made with the intent of getting you the results that you're looking for in using that supplement. Therefore, there's no fillers. The ingredients in the supplement are the type that your body needs and that it can be absorbed. And there's enough of it in there for your body to do something with. As opposed to the other side where it's like, I'm just going to put just a tiny little bit in so I can have that on the label, and then people will see that on the label and they'll buy it, but there's not actually enough in it for the body to do something with. And so that's why knowing the brands that you're working with and trusting those brands is really, really important. Buying your supplements at Walmart, at Walgreens, even at Costco, not a great idea. You're getting a lot of fillers. In fact, I was buying my supplements at the health food store. This is still back when I was in corporate, and I bought I went into the store. I was looking for a women's multi for women over 40, went into the store and I asked the clerk, what do they have? And they recommend it to me. And I go away thinking, I've gone to a health food store. I've got a good quality supplement. And I thought I did. And then I learned that I didn't when I was traveling, because at home, I would always take that supplement with my breakfast and that was fine. But when I was traveling, I would take it in my hotel room and then go down the elevator and meet my colleagues in the restaurant for the buffet breakfast in the restaurant. And by the time I got to the restaurant, I was nauseous from having that on an empty stomach. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it at the time, but the reason I was nauseous is because there were so many fillers in it that my poor empty stomach was like, what are you giving me right now? A good quality supplement should not leave you feeling nauseous. And the one exception to that is iron. Iron really does need to be taken with food, but a multivitamin, a good quality multivitamin, should not leave you feeling nauseous. So I just want to talk about the 4 supplements that I recommend everybody be on for life, given our nutrient depleted soil systems and food systems. So one of them I already mentioned, and that's omega-3s. You guys are both doing your labs, so you don't have to change anything now. We'll get your lab results and then look at it. However, it's something that you will need to take for life because omega-6s are just so readily accessible. It's really hard to keep up with omega-3s unless, like I said, you're eating those high fatty fish at least 3 to 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. Another one is magnesium, which Lauren, you found out about through detox.
Ouch.
So yes, exactly. So we have 80% of the North American market is deficient in magnesium. It's harder and harder to get it through our soil systems, and it's needed for over 300 chemical, combinations happening within our body. It's very calming on the body, for starters. It helps balance calcium. The two go hand in hand. It also helps with preventing plaque buildup in the arteries. So in terms of the cardiovascular disease that we have and all of the plaque buildup, magnesium is a simple solution for people to not get there or to start to reverse it. Again, it needs to be a good quality magnesium. So a magnesium glycinate, a magnesium citrate, malate, those are great forms of magnesium. Again, you're both running your labs, so we'll see what your calcium magnesium ratios are, because you might need a calcium magnesium, you might need both, or your calcium might be really high and your magnesium lower and you might need a straight magnesium. So don't do anything yet. I'm just sharing this information with you and for the benefit of the others that will watch the recording. Another thing about magnesium is that it can help with constipation. Ideally, if somebody has like chronic constipation and I really need to work with them to help them get into a more regular cycle, in that case, the best magnesium for that is magnesium oxide. However, that's the cheapest form of magnesium. And if you're taking it a magnesium for the benefit of the rest of your body, that's not the one that you want. And yet it's the one that is very often in magnesiums that you can buy at your local drugstores, etc., because it's also the cheapest form. So unless you're wanting it specifically for constipation, you definitely want to be avoiding magnesium oxides. The next one is vitamin D. So if you live in the northern part of the US and all of Canada and you're not supplementing in vitamin D, you are deficient, because we do not get enough sun on our exposed skin for enough exposed skin for enough hours of the day for enough days of the year. End of story. We're not walking around in t-shirt and shorts 300 days of the year. Vitamin D, they call it a vitamin, they're starting to call it a hormone. It is so critical for so many aspects of our health, including our immune system, including our brain. And because so many people are deficient, it's something that everybody needs to be aware of supplementing. Depending where you're at, and again, you'll get this in your lab results, it could be anywhere from, 3,000 to 7,000 IUs a day that you might need to come up to being at an optimal level. Research that's coming out now, and actually it was out even in October 2020, showed that during COVID, people whose vitamin D levels were optimal. Now, optimal is different to sufficient. Your doctor will tell you you're sufficient if you're over 20. Optimal is between 50 and 80. People whose levels, they didn't even have to be optimal. They had to be over 30. It was people whose vitamin D levels were over 30 were not ending up in ICU. And they actually did some studies where people had COVID, and they have the stats of the people that were in COVID, the people who were in ICU, and the people who actually died, versus when they started treating with just vitamin D. The ratio of people who didn't even need to be hospitalized went from 50% to 98%.
Wow.
The people that were in ICU went from 40% to 2%. And the deaths went to 0. It's really powerful for our immune system.
Yep.
And the last one is vitamin C. Now, we all know vitamin C is great for our immune system, and I'm not talking about the orange chewables that are loaded with sugar. I'm talking about a ascorbic acid version of vitamin C. Again, great for the immune system. It's actually a really great antihistamine. It's a great antiviral. It's great antipyretic, meaning it'll help bring down a fever. And it's something that I take every single day just to keep myself at that, kind of base level. And then if I feel like I'm coming down with something, I can high dose it. Because the worst thing that happens with vitamin C, you're not going to overdose on it. You're going to just get loose stool. It's the same with magnesium, actually. You don't overdose on magnesium, you just get loose stool. So back in December of 2021, I started feeling like I was getting strep throat. And I'd had strep throat about 20 years ago, that swallowing glass feeling. So I just went and got my vitamin C, and I put a little container at my desk. And I literally took 1,000 milligrams every half hour all day long, because vitamin C is water soluble. So you need to take it frequently and let your body use it versus dumping it all in at once. And then you'll just urinate the rest out. So every half hour I took 1,000 milligrams, and I did that for 2 days. Never got strep throat. Had a little bit of a cold. So I kept it up, but I dropped it off the 20,000 and I dropped it down to like, I don't know, 5,000 a day for the rest of that week. I've done that with my kids. My oldest daughter has pet allergies, and one time she went and babysat at someone new's house, and they had a dog and it was really long hair and it was too much for her. She came home and couldn't breathe. And she didn't want me to take her to the clinic. And so I just started high dosing her on vitamin C for like 2 hours that night to see how she would do before I had to decide if I really need to get her to the clinic. And just in the 2 hours that her breathing started to improve. And then we kept doing that. So it's really powerful to keep your system in check and then increase it as needed. And yes, the magnesium as well is one that you determine the amount that your body needs by doing a bowel tolerance test. And what I mean by that is you just start off with one, and the next day you add another one, and you keep adding by 1 capsule each day until you get to a point where you have loose stool. And then stay at that level 1 more day. And if you have loose stool again, so we know it's the magnesium and not something else funky going on, then you dial it back to 1 less. Stay at that level. And you're going to, at some point, as your body starts to get into a place of balance, it'll be like, okay, that's enough. I don't need that much magnesium anymore. So you have loose stool again, dial it back. And that's how you figure out what your body needs in order to have your dose. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I know you were doing a little bit of that through the detox, Lauren.
Yeah.
So those are the 4 supplements that I really believe is a foundational point everybody needs to be taking all the time to stay on top of your health. And then once you do lab testing, then there might be more, specifics that come out for you that your body needs. And typically for those ones, it's more around, a 4 to 6 month window while we rebalance the body, and not forever. Mm-hmm. So I know I've given you a ton of information today.
Yes. I'm so glad you're recording this.
Just before we wrap up, any questions, anything that's jumping out of you, or any takeaways?
No, I'm just looking forward to getting food tomorrow. I'm definitely feeling tired. I apologize if anybody saw me yawning. I'm just like, oh God.
Okay.
No,
in this room, we all understand it. Exactly. Totally. So so good luck with cleaning out the horses, shelters this afternoon. And like you said, it'll distract you for a bit, and enjoy your evening shake. And lunch tomorrow will be the best meal ever.
I know. I used to get that with bodybuilding when it'd be competition day, and we'd get to have a rice cake with almond butter and strawberry jam on it. And you were only allowed like a tablespoon of almond butter and a teaspoon of the jam, but nothing tasted as good as that did on competition day. You're like, oh, the sweet. Because at that point you haven't had fruit for or anything sweet for a couple of weeks. So that's what I feel like tomorrow is going to be like.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not sweet. Although my mom did say, she's like, it is a little bit sweet. And I was like, really? I don't think of black beans as sweet, but that's what she tasted. So I'm like, okay.
And again, everyone's taste buds are different as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally. So I am looking forward to, just seeing what happens the next couple of weeks. And interestingly, the first thing that I noticed, we went out on Sunday and we had Indian food for dinner at my husband's request. And I mean, it's so good, but definitely we ate and we were full when we left. And so I did weigh myself Monday morning and my weight was higher than I expected. I'm like, well, that's probably as a result of what I ate last night.
Right.
And so when I got on the scale this morning, it was 5.2 pounds difference that showed me, I mean, there's no way I would have had that much of a discrepancy in 24 hours doing the fast, but it was just, showing me how bloated I was from the food and salt and the spices and whatever else was contributing to that. So I do feel a lot more comfortable today. That's for sure.
I'm glad to hear that. And just to that point, I also recommend that people don't weigh themselves every day, because we can get obsessed by that. It can impact our mood. It can ruin our day if it's not where we want it to be. However, if you want to be weighing yourself, weigh yourself on a Friday morning and then weigh yourself on a Monday morning. Because generally people tend to be better during the week. And so by Friday morning, you're going to see, a result that you want. And then the Monday morning is like, what did I do over the weekend? What choices could I make better next time? Because look what I've done over the weekend, right? And I work all week for it, and then I blow it on the weekend. Yeah. So just doing the 2 times a week check is better for people in terms of being able to see the impact of your choices, which is really what this is all about. And Lauren, I like what you said earlier about feeling better in your clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, yeah. I will have some clients throw out their scale because it becomes an obsession. It's driving their behaviors. It's driving their mood. And I just say, I need you to throw it out. And we're just going to feel how we feel in your clothing, because your clothing will tell you, as you've said, it feels more comfortable, right?
Yeah. My jeans fit so much better. And I only had 5 pounds, but it makes
it does make a huge difference. I mean, unless you're like a 6'5" man, 5 pounds maybe doesn't feel like anything, but on most women, it does make a huge difference. And I actually bought a new pair of riding pants, some white ones to show in, because my old white ones, I just hate them. And anyways, I'm buying them. So I ordered them from Sweden last week and they arrived, and I bought them in a small because the last pair I bought was in a medium and they've stretched out already. And I thought, nope, I'm getting myself healthy. I'm probably going to lose a few pounds in the process. I'm buying the smalls, and I can actually put them on. They're just very tight.
Right.
So they're going to be kind of my gauge. I'll put them on in a week from now and see how they feel.
Exactly.
Yeah. And because I have my next course show May 5th and 6th. So that's not too far away. Month.
Oh. And you'll have finished the full 21 detox by then. So
yep.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I will see you again, same time, same place next week. And
I won't be here next week because I'm in Oregon with my kids.
Right. Oh, I have so much fun in Oregon. Where are you going in Oregon? Are you going down the coast? Or
Rockaway Beach. I think it's south of Cannon Beach.
Oh, nice.
My kids got together and got us a beach house for a few days there for our Christmas.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And they're all in Seattle, so
yeah. Enjoy that. Reach out to me, Lauren, if you have any questions as you get all your labs done this week. Okay. And then I'll obviously record next week and you can catch up on that, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Later, ladies. Bye-bye.
Good evening. Enjoy lunch tomorrow, Christy.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.